First, JASRAC organization outline. As any other CMOs, we have our own members and representation agreement with sister societies. The governing law of JASRAC is this one, under the law on management business of copyright and neighboring rights. We call it management business law. JASRAC is a non-profit, and other CMOs are profit-making. And JASRAC's objective is to protect the rights of owners of musical works, at the same time to facilitate the utilization of musical works. Outline of activities, of course, licensing music use, collect and distribute royalties. These are figures we represent, and at the same time, countermeasures against copyright infringement. We need to do this, otherwise legitimate users will not keep our licensing agreement. And also we do some cultural activities, some courses at the university, lectures, symposium, and so on and so on. Governing law, that's the management business law. Currently, all these CMOs, corporate business management operators, they are called. As you see, music copyright, 12 CMOs or operators are registered, but I think more than in Taiwan. But actually, JASRAC, e-license, JLC, these 3-4 are doing collective management on a business basis. So, the multiple situation. The old law, that intermediary business law, under this law, JASRAC was a single society in the field of music copyrights. It lasted 62 years. Then in the year 2001, under the deregulation policy of the Japanese government, this new law allowed the new CMOs to enter in the copyright management business. Now, under the new governing law, to set up the contract we just report to the Agency for Cultural Affairs. And the tariffs, in the same way, in the old law, we need approval of the government. But now it's just notification to Agency for Cultural Affairs. But it's not just a simply notification. We cannot unilaterally report the new tariff. This is the chart, as many societies are doing. Here's different categories of music users. We collect royalties, we issue license, and we make a distribution on a quarterly basis to our domestic, our own members, and to sister societies. It's almost the same. And this is the users' organization in general performances. In Japan, in any industry, they have their own associations. For example, concert area, many associations to represent their member users. CD rental business we have. In the karaoke, so many associations, but they represent their members in a certain category. Retailers and background music service. And this is the broadcasting industry in Japan, satellite and terrestrial. NHK is a public broadcaster, and terrestrial commercial broadcasters, we have altogether more than 200 TV radio stations, and the community FM, satellite. And in this industry, NHK is the user representative for public performance. Japan Commercial Broadcast Association is a representative organization for commercial broadcasters. Japan Satellite Broadcasting Association represents satellite broadcasters. Likewise, Japan Cable Telecommunication Association represents 500 more cable TV operators. So every industry has its own representative organization. How we propose and tariff setting amend the tariff. First, by the way, this is the JASRAC, we call it our mascot of the society. We propose a new tariff to user representative group. This is unusual as a non-Japanese representative, but I couldn't find any material. So it is stipulated under the management law, a management business operator that JASRAC shall, when intending to change to amend the law, to endeavor hear opinions from users as a group. And the user representative has to consult with their members' opinions to the JASRAC proposal. And the JASRAC is designated management business operator. JASRAC is still have the share of active music more than 95, say 90 or 95% of Japanese market. So that is why JASRAC has a special status under the governing law. You have JASRAC has to follow this procedure. We propose, then we have questions, opinions, and the counter proposal for the music users group. Negotiations, this process will take months, year, or number of years. If agreed, when agreed, JASRAC shall report the new tariff to the Agency for Cultural Affairs. Then that will be the new tariff published. And I would say 99% of cases we negotiate, we make a certain agreement. Of course, JASRAC make compromises, but settled through voluntary negotiation. When not agreed, under the management business law, JASRAC or the music user may apply for arbitration by the commissioner of the agency. But in fact, only one case in the 75 years history. That's a broadcasting dispute. We negotiate, try to reach a workable agreement. Consultation arbitration system under the management business law, it says like this. In the case when the designated management business operator, that JASRAC has to accept requests from a user representative for consultation on the rules. And arbitration will be done by the commissioner of the Agency for Cultural Affairs. In the case where an arbitration decision was made to the effect this is necessary to change the royalty rules, the rules shall be changed in accordance with the decision made by the arbitration. You can see more information on this site. this is the last slide I have to show. This is the Prince Shotoku. He's the one made the first constitution in Japan in 6th century. Check the harmony. Well, this portrait is still in a stamp or Japanese currency, and this idea is still in Japanese people's culture or mentality. Try to make harmonization agreement. It will take time, but it is good for both of us to agree on for the future. But it will take time, anytime. I try to be brief, and if you have any questions, we can. I'm happy to discuss. Thank you.
All right, I think maybe I'll do a quick summary. We heard from Mr. Carlos Hong the situation in Taiwan. I think he has multiple societies in the same field of rights, and that was one of the key justifications that Mr. Hong said, the reason behind why they had the law to govern collective management of rights. We hear the practice from APRA. They are a monopoly, de facto monopoly. Monopoly, in fact, not because of legal provision. And you can see that the way they operate naturally is quite different from the situation in Taiwan, where you have got competing societies. You then heard from Mr. Watanabe that in Japan, in fact, they now have competition. They actually have more collecting societies than you have in Taiwan in a particular field. Of course, having said that, 95% of the rights are still with JASRAC, because the way JASRAC started was it was a monopoly from 1939 all the way till 2001 when the law was changed. So we can see the different situations that has happened in the different countries. Mr. Hong mentioned a very important point which I found a bit interesting, and I wanted to share with you so you could perhaps reflect a little bit more. On the one hand, of course, there is this, how should I say, at the very start, there was this decision not to control the number of collecting societies. Whereas if you look in the case of Japan, it started out in 1939 because they wanted to control the number of collecting societies. So from 1939 to 2001, they had one. In fact, there was only one collecting society in the field of music. In Taiwan, the decision was not to control. Then you find the way the tariffs, because Mr. Hong concluded with the Tongyi Chuangkou position. Well, you do not want to control the number of collecting societies, you then force the collecting societies to come together to give one tariff. I find that approach very interesting. In fact, I find it to be conflicting. Because on the one hand, you are saying you do not want to control this side. But then on the other side, you are then saying now, well, all of you, because the users say it's a big problem for them, give me one tariff. So I think I wanted to highlight this point to you and to see, in fact, whether you want to do a fundamental rethink of the principles that are guiding you in how you want to manage collective management. Because I think that is really one of the major problems you face in the market. But of course, Taiwan is also not unique in the sense that in Hong Kong, for example, while cash, and you hear from the cash representative, on the author side, there's one. On the producer side, on the recording side, there are actually two collecting societies like in Taiwan. In Taiwan, you have RPAT and ARCO. In Hong Kong, there's Hong Kong RIA and PP Seal. So they are competing, but you also heard from Benjamin saying that in Hong Kong, in fact, until today, they have a tribunal, but no cases have ever been heard. So even though there's competition, there appears, at least in other territories or countries, to be a situation where there is not so much reference to the tribunal or to the tariff setting body. So,
but the exist situation is before the multiple CMO exist in Taiwan. So the Director Hong mentioned about is the authority. We haven't
Understood.
Haven't the authority to ask them only one exists and the others must distinguish.
My first visit to Taipei was in February 1989. At the time, in February 1989, there was one collecting society in Taipei, in Taiwan, in the whole of Taiwan. Okay, Cha. And I met legislator Chou Hui-ying. Yes, you know. So I think from that situation, the Taiwanese government changed the law. I think 1991 or 1992, where you know, historically, you all know better than me, right? Your law required all this there can only be one body. When the law was changed, it led to 3 or 4 collecting societies. So between 1990 and 1992, almost every week I flew to Taipei. Every week, every 2 weeks, because exactly what the DG Wang said, the right owners broke up into different groups. And we were trying to bring everybody back together into one group because we knew a situation like this will happen, you know, where the market, you know, gets bad, where, you know, the Taiwanese music, the royalties that Mr. Hong showed you collected by the societies, by author societies collectively on author side about 310 million NT and on producer side 100 million NT is very small if you compare, for example, to Hong Kong, right? What cash is collecting and what the producers are collecting in Hong Kong, which is a much smaller territory than Taiwan, is a lot more. Okay, so I think that is an indication to you that the value of your music is not being achieved because of these difficulties you are facing in your market. But I understand your explanation, DG Wang, because I would of course say that, I mean, you know, government set the law. If you want to, you can. But and I think at that time I was also involved in discussions with, before TIPO, the law on collective management of rights. And we strongly recommended the law states there shall only be one. I understand that the original draft at the time provided that there shall only be one. But when it went up for discussions, along the way it got removed. For political reasons, it got removed. So I think there was indeed an attempt. Now you have a factual situation, of course, and the question is how do we solve the issue given the factual situations? Questions? No? Not at all, huh? Okay, thank you very much for your attention.